Hi there. Welcome to edition number 9 of Learn from the Tax Masters, part of the O.B.S Financial Services Education Series. My name is Stacey Bartel, and I want to welcome you back. I'm recording this early, so don't mind the clothes. I'm wearing the same clothes, not 3 days in a row. I'm actually doing 3 videos in a row, but this edition is scheduled to come out on Monday, March 4th. So last week, we had a few deadlines come up. We had an RSP deadline, we had a T4 deadline, people started filing their taxes, Revenue Canada started sending out their first tax refunds last week, so things are cooking along in the income tax world, right? But as we all got our T4s last week, or we're waiting for that last one or two to show up in the mail this week, once they arrive in your mailbox, what's next? Do we get to all run out and get our taxes done, right? Well, wrong. Just because you've received your T4s and the deadline's passed doesn't mean that you have everything that you need to file your taxes, because there's some other deadlines that people are not aware of, right? So, Revenue Canada, while they require you employers and financial institutions and corporations to file T4s, T5s, and those series returns by February 28th, there's an additional reporting period, and that's March 31st of the year. So not for another 30 days yet, or 27 days yet, before some companies are required to send out forms. And those forms are T3 series, right? We talked about the T4 series, T3, right? T5 series. We're now going to talk about the T3 series. The T3 series are trust accounts, okay? Estates, family trusts, other types of trust forms, but the most common one that you would actually see or realize would be securities or mutual funds. If you're investing into mutual funds, you are investing in a trust, right? Those trusts have the first 90 days, or until March 31st, to look at the income from their trust and issue out the T3s, or the statement of trust earnings, based off of your investments. So most commonly those are security companies. If you have an investment advisor, make sure that you're calling them up today or before you make your tax appointment and confirming that you're not supposed to that you're not going to be receiving any T3s. Take a look at last year's tax return. Find out if you're supposed to be receiving any T3s. If you had some bad surprises in the past because you filed your taxes too soon and Revenue Canada gave you notices of reassessments, take a look at those notices, or try to remember, why did they send that reassessment? Was it from a T3? If it was, don't make your appointment now. Don't file your taxes. You're just going to have to pay to get your taxes refiled. It's going to become a mess, and or you could be looking at penalties and interest. So double check and make sure that you're not supposed to be getting any T3s. There's some other T3s in the T3 series. They're less commonly used forms, and they're for more complex tax returns. But again, I could run off a list of all of them. But for the most part, you should know based off of last year's or previous years what you're looking at. There's also 2 other types of income that are due until the end of, or 2 types of returns that are not due until the end of March. Those are a T1061. Basically, those are for athletics trusts, for amateur athletics. If they're getting paid from trust funds that are set up to help them with their training, whatever else, those forms aren't due until March 31st. And same thing with the T2000, which is regarding tax on share acquisitions and some other more complex items. Normally, for the most part, people with T3s aren't in that big of a rush, but we all try to be compliant with the tax situation, and we just don't want to make sure that we're pushing it. Last but not least, just to follow up on Friday's session, the other deadline that we do see towards the end of March is the first 60 days of RRSP contribution receipts. If you did an RSP contribution receipt on Friday, March 1st, you don't have it by March 1st. You're going to get it sometime within the next month. So they have until the end of March to get that sent out. So if you're doing that first 60-day regular RSP contribution, cool your heels. You're going to need to wait. Otherwise, it's going to cost you some money. Then there's a couple of other forms that are March 31st or later. One is a T1204. A T1204 is a statement of government service contract. So if you have a contract with the government, a lot of times it's to clean small offices, do some other work inside of there, but you're not considered an employee of the government. They will send you out a T1204. That's a statement of government service payments, and that one's due March 31st of the year. There's another one that has to deal with mostly construction companies. Construction companies, if they hire you as a subcontractor, even if you're a business or a corporation, so let's say a construction company, general contractor hires a stucco company, right? That general contractor, because they're in construction, has to file a T5018 and send it to the stucco company in order to file the taxes. Now, those forms aren't actually due until June 30th, right? And even if you're self-employed, you have to file your taxes by June 15th. So how does that work? Well, if you're in business and you either have government service contracts or you're in business and you're in the construction business as a subcontractor, regardless of whether those forms are being sent out or not, you are required and tasked with tracking 100% of your income throughout the year. Invoicing out, keeping receipts, reconciling your bank accounts to make sure all that's taken care of. So the form's not really that important for you. What those forms are for is that, those are a couple of areas where people neglect to report some of the income that they make. So, a construction company hires you as a subcontractor to come in and do some tiling because you're a tile worker. They pay you, but not as an employee, because you said, I'll do the job for $1,000. Well, they're assuming you're a subcontractor. They're supposed to get your social insurance number and or your business number. They file that at the end of the year. The government uses that to make sure that that money is not being made in the underground economy and that people are paying taxes on it. For those of you that get the slips, I know it's not fun. Sometimes everybody wants to look at cash business, but for everybody else that's paying tax on 100% of the earnings they have, it's only fair. You need to make sure that you're reporting 100% of your income. Remember, if you're receiving contract payment slips, you're self-employed, you have to report your taxes on a T2125, and you're able to report offsetting deductions. We're going to talk about that over the next month or two, but for right now, that kind of wraps up all of our deadlines. All I can say is, if you double check your tax returns from last year, double check all your tax information slips. If you got them last year, chances are you're getting them this year. Talk to your financial advisors before you file your taxes. Talk to your banks. Make sure that you have everything, because the responsibility is yours. Anyways, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning in.